welcome to Sword and Board. I'm Luke.
And I'm Lars.
This is two guys talking about every fantasy movie ever made, and joining us this week, once again, is our dad, Bill Farabee.
Hello,
Dad, how are
guys.
you?
Hey,
Great.
Dad.
Hey.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of
You're
course.
Love having you on.
Yes. Actually, your episode was the highest rated 3-person fantasy ranking podcast that week. So it was pretty incredible.
If you lower the bar far enough, it's great.
It's great,
Yes.
yeah. And that's basically been my life's work, is lowering the bar that level
right.
to where I'm impressive.
Highest rated,
So,
three
right.
guys named Farabee, right?
Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah. It's been a
How's
little while.
everyone doing?
We're good, man. It's been a little while since we've done this. Obviously still under the
COVID blues.
wonderful 2020 nightmare, and the hits just keep on coming. But some great news is that I just finished the graded portion of my doctoral program, and now I'm on to writing my dissertation.
Awesome.
So
That's cool.
Fantastic.
I will need a lot more awful fantasy movies to get me through the next year.
I thought
Don't
you were
worry,
going to say.
we can find them.
I thought you were going to say, and I'm going to need a lot more money.
Right, yes. There's that too.
Yep.
But
And now I know why I've been invited this afternoon.
right,
For this
yes.
So something that's just funny that I need to bring up. You remember how when I first moved out here, the thing I mentioned was that as opposed to ducks or pigeons, it's geese?
Yes.
Okay, so all the geese are gone now, but they've been replaced
Replaced
By
with geese?
by mecha
No.
geese,
by
Bionic.
moths and rabbits.
Moths?
moths, and So is that what happens to geese when they die?
Are they
I guess.
moths?
they
Are the moths and rabbits teaming up together, or
You know, it wouldn't surprise me, but there are moths everywhere.
because what you
It's
just
the most
what you just described is a better movie than Against the Dark.
Yes, it is.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
But no, there's a nice little park near us, and there's a lot of little rabbit warrens, and they're everywhere. See them every day, and it's a really nice change of pace. And then the moths try to come in every night, and they're giant. They're like the size of a $50, and there's hundreds of them everywhere, and I don't get it.
Have you heard a rabbit scream?
It's horrifying.
It is horrifying. I would rather listen to an hour and a half of rabbits screaming than the first movie that we're going to discuss, and that's a segue. That is how you do
Wow.
a segue.
That's blew right into that.
Good. I did not see that one coming.
I did.
Dad, this was your movie that you picked. What was the
Well-
movie that you picked?
I picked against. What was the first one I picked? And Lucas said, "Well, that doesn't really fit in." What was the first one?
The Philadelphia
Experiment, right? Which is, I guess, more of a sci-fi, but it's still time travel and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if where this one fits in the fantasy.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't even fit in as the definition of a movie. It's not even. It was amazing. I read. I think I told you, Lars. I read an article about it after I had finished watching this dribble. That it costs an estimated $6 million.
Name the dribble. What was the dribble?
Oh, Against the Dark, starring. I'm doing air quotes. Starring Steven Seagal. So
Steven Seagal, who has still in his illustrious career only starred in 2 good movies.
okay.
Under Siege and Executive Decision. That's it.
Okay, and the very first one, where he was a cop, that was pretty good. I forget the name.
above the law. Yeah, the first one was good.
It was a good movie. Yeah, he was some good fight scenes. But anyway, what was I saying? Where were we going?
This is terrible.
How much money it cost?
Oh yeah, so it cost an estimated $6 million, and it grossed worldwide $83,000. It grossed worldwide.
Oh my god. The return on that just I don't
even know where to start with this, because I can't imagine these people making this movie and thinking we're onto something here.
Right.
We have got a story. where they say there's a plague that's killed everyone on the earth except for some people that have been turned into they say vampires, but they're just zombies, really. And nobody's immune, they say. And then a little while later, there are some people that are immune, which is, I didn't understand that one. But then they spend the entire movie moving around in this hospital, trying to avoid the zombies when they could have just gone outside, I guess, and left. And then
because it was night and it was safer in a building than outside, I guess.
Safer in a building filled with vampires.
Zombies, exactly.
Right.
I'm not following you.
You know what? I'm gonna take my chances outside. There's more space to run around.
I climb up in a tree.
Climb a tree.
Climb up a tree.
Yeah. There's lots of things I can do. This was.
Oh.
It was a.
It hurt.
Was it a? Yeah. And when I think I emailed you guys or texted you guys that. What was the over-under on how long they actually had Steven Seagal on set?
It was a 1 day.
I would say a day. It
was a 1 day, and he was the executive producer, I think.
Yeah.
It was just, I'm going to lend my name to this so I can make some money. Obviously, he didn't make a lot of money if it was $83,000.
And I'm going to walk around with a sword in a weird pose and look, air quotes, cool.
And never actually fight. Every single scene when he was fighting with the sword, it was a close-up of him doing that.
Yeah.
And then never showed anybody.
And that is
oh, I'm sorry.
Making a sword. That's making a sword motion here.
Motions.
Which was actually him not describing his sword motions was more exciting than watching Steven Seagal actually make his sword motions.
I think it was more exciting for the two of you to watch me do that than to watch.
I had to I started watching this. I got so bored. I just paused it and took an hour nap because that was a better waste of my time.
Let me tell you why I really picked this one. After you shot down the first one. I went to
spite.
Out of spite. That's what it is. It was revenge. No, I went through it. I'm like, well, here's one: Steven Seagal Against the Dark. Oh, wait a minute. It's only an hour and 17 minutes long. Oh, I'm going to pick that one.
Yeah,
or whatever it was. I knew it was a short.
It felt so much longer.
Oh my god! It dragged for so.
Like Lucas said, I had to keep stopping it. And go walk around to go, this is...
It's nonsense. Like Dad actually just described it really well, was that it was a bunch of people moving around in the hospital trying to escape. At the same time, some surprisingly well-dressed men are talking about bombing it. So, Keith
David.
David, yeah.
Yeah, Keith David from The Thing and from, he's been a ton
Gargoyles
of stuff. Yeah, tons of stuff. Requiem for a Dream. He's a really great character actor, and to see him
greatest
in
voice on the planet.
He was a general or something that he was gonna.
Yeah, and they're gonna bomb this sector, and then Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat is telling him, "Don't."
Holy shit, that's him.
That's it.
That's him.
Now I can't. Yeah,
Johnny Cage from.
I knew I had seen him before.
Yep, that's Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. So
this is the part where we fall down.
But
And then Steven Seagal is I don't even know his name.
Tao.
I
looked it up. T-A-O.
And he says it once.
I'm Tao. Oh, that's right. He says, "I'm Tao."
I'm
and
Tao.
It's like, wow.
Exactly.
And he just walks around and kills people. You don't really. Does he show up at the end? I don't know what.
They all run away from an explosion at the end.
They all ran away from the explosion at the end.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Now, I do know why he actually. One of the reasons he made this movie was so he could get that really cool black leather jacket that he wore, the
duster,
the long duster, the leather one. Why he was, and who this team was that he was leading, a band of vampire mercenaries that didn't do any. Why were they there?
What sucks is so there's the group of the vampire hunters, and there's Steven Seagal, and the only other one who actually does anything, and the only person who seems to put in any effort and actually is cool is the giant guy with the weird stabby knives.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
he kind of looks like, I think, is that The Rock's?
It is
Stunt
literally
double?
The Rock's. It's The Rock's cousin and stunt double.
Really?
And yes,
He was fine.
yeah.
Had he been the lead, he's kind of got a charm and for an asylum movie, he'd be fine.
he would be. Yeah, he'd be. Maybe the Stone.
And then
Maybe not The Rock, but the Stone.
And then the woman,
Pebble.
yeah, the Pebble.
Gravel.
The woman that was in it, that was the fighter as well. I don't know. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it dawned on me, nothing was going on.
Nothing was.
That's why I couldn't figure it out.
This was two. It seemed like two separate scripts they didn't have a full runtime, but like there's enough common factors that they can stitch it together badly.
You are assuming there was scripts.
Yeah, you think someone
that's
wrote this?
That's a big assumption there.
You think someone wrote this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, this was this was on Tubi. We're still going through Tubi.
Tubi is
free,
a gym,
and there's some interesting stuff on there,
and it's legal.
And it's legal. Yep.
Yeah.
And okay, I have to wonder. We're getting very, very strange commercials that are localized to Colorado for Tubi. What kind of commercials are you getting on Tubi?
I didn't really notice. Look at the thing.
Hey, Mom.
Hey, how you doing, Mom?
I don't.
Special guest appearance.
Yeah.
Honestly, as soon as a commercial happened, I was like, "Oh, thank God!" And I would go away somewhere else and not really pay attention.
Actually, we probably should have focused on the commercials. That'd have been a lot
That
better.
would have been better.
Yeah, we get a lot of ones because we've been watching stuff. A lot of ones about making sure to lock up your marijuana so your kids don't get it.
Do you do it?
And it's
Do you lock it up?
well, exactly. I have to make sure so that But it's weird because they're super they have higher production values than Against the Dark.
Yeah.
These dumbass commercials have better.
Yeah. It was. There's not much we can say about it
Other than I apologize from the bottom of my heart.
The problem
See,
was
and this is
was
what
the
happens
worst
when
kind of.
this is why we stay away from spite, Dad. This is what we get.
Actually, it really wasn't spite. It was like, okay, I look. Well, okay, this is Steven Seagal. How bad can it be? Well, I found out.
The answer is bad. The answer is very
really bad.
What is not as bad which was more it was more entertaining. I'll talk about this one. At least this is
okay.
The next one was Bulletproof Monk. Not a great movie, but compared to Against the Dark, and to be honest, compared to a lot of the other movies that we've watched,
Fun.
It was fun. It was entertaining. Sean William Scott and is it Chow Yun Fat? Chow Yun
Fat's great.
He's great. Chow Yun Fat is awesome.
Not in this movie, but he's great.
No, Chow Yun Fat of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He was like the Replacement Killers. He's been in a bunch of really good Hong Kong action movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
This was very, very early aughts.
Yep.
He actually couldn't speak English very well when he was making this movie, and a lot of it was just phonetically acted.
Yeah.
Which and that kind of hurts it because I really like him. And Crouching Tiger, he was great.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that kind of holds back a performance when you're not really comfortable with the language.
Yeah.
And when it's also, Jackie Chan wasn't really great with English when he made Rumble in the Bronx, but that performance is so physical and so stunt driven that it's fine.
That's the kind of movie it is.
That's the kind of movie it is.
Yeah.
This one is much more dialogue driven, and it's. You
And
can,
I was amazed that the production values in this movie were there was a lot of money put in this movie. There were very good stunts, very good sets. I mean, I was very surprised.
Yeah,
I remember. I love this. I remember watching it several years ago and really enjoying it. And I still really enjoy this. It's fun. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but it's fun. It's very Hellboy, Indiana Jones, mystic Nazis deserve to get punched in the face because
but
punch Nazis every
Hellboy
day.
was so much better.
Oh no,
Yes.
I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
So I know you said that you don't like Sean William Scott, Dad.
I'm gonna say that completely drug me out of this movie. I can't. He was horrible.
See, that's the thing is, I actually kind of like him, and what I want to know is,
him.
He seems like a proto. I don't understand why he didn't have much of an action career, because he's kind of got the smarmy Harrison Ford thing, but he's also kind of a proto Chris Pratt.
He's much more Chris Pratt. Like, and he had he been around as the MCU was happening, I think he would have probably vied for those Chris Pratt roles. I can see that.
All I saw was putting him in that role took this movie and it turned it into, they couldn't figure out if it was a comedy or if it was serious. If they had played it serious, like Hellboy was serious. It had some funny parts to it.
But they took those. I'm sorry, Dad. Go ahead.
No. It's just that, and I guess it's this guy, Sean William Scott. The way he portrayed it, I couldn't get American Pie out of my head. That I just kept seeing that character.
Well, and I think what you just said, Dad, is kind of the big crux of it, is that, you either play it straight or you play it completely like a spoof. And I'm not comparing it to this movie at all, but think about Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, the threat is real. The ghosts are real. They're played straight. Like this is a scary thing happening, but then Bill Murray is just a smartass. And I think they were trying to. It's Bill Murray, but the villain is played straight, and you actually, it's kind of like, wow, it's an like, this is kind of scary. I mean, the Dana Barrett, when she gets ripped into the doorway, I mean, that's scary stuff.
Scary, yeah.
That's horror movie stuff. This almost tried to do that, where you have a serious, mysticism thing, and then a funny guy. But they didn't do the mysticism thing straight enough, and they didn't make it scary enough. So that way, when
and they didn't do,
and plus,
and they didn't also
the funny parts.
They didn't do the funny parts funny enough, so that it didn't have that.
It just didn't mesh. And then the girl, that I didn't understand. Though I kind of liked her, I didn't understand the whole "I'm a rich girl." That just didn't make much sense to me. I mean, I almost. It's like the same kind of genre as Big Time Little China? No, the Kurt
Big Trouble.
Big Trouble.
Big Trouble in Little China. It's the same kind of thing where there's a bunch of mysticism going on, but Kurt Russell played that straight, but he was funny. He played it straight.
Yeah, Kurt Russell in that, but it's funny because he's not the hero of that movie.
No.
He's the comedy relief. It's the other guy.
But he didn't try to be funny. He was just funny. This guy, and that's my opinion, was just he was trying too hard to be funny. And I kind of lost it there.
The parts where he wasn't trying to be funny, where he was playing it straight, those are the best parts of the movie. When he was,
I agree.
When he was like doing the real fights, when he was, doing, like, there's some like parts where, so Bulletproof Monk, it's Chow Yun Fat, it opens up with, he's this monk, and he basically has like this mystic power imbued in him, and there's this sacred scroll that if the forces of evil read this scroll, then the world will be over. So because he's got this power, he's bulletproof, he'll live forever until it's time for him to pass on the knowledge to someone else.
Right.
Lo and behold, that knowledge gets passed on to Stifler.
Exactly. Luckily not his mom.
Right, exactly. But so Stifler, so Sean William Scott, the parts where he did best was, he's this kind of loner, and he's this ne'er-do-well, but
pickpocket.
He's a pickpocket, but he's also like you see him like he's giving like food to homeless people, and he's running this theater that shows old kung fu movies, and that's where he's learned kung fu. So there's something about him where he's not just a thief. There's he's a good person at the end. Ultimately he's a good person, and he has to band up with the Bulletproof Monk to defeat the force of darkness and win the day.
Right.
Now I will say the sexy Russian blonde lady, that was a pretty interesting film.
Yeah, the German.
The German or Russian or whatever.
Yeah. So what's interesting, we brought up Hellboy a couple of times. The main Nazi in this plays Rasputin in Hellboy.
Yes, he does. You're right.
And
so this
my
is
favorite bit
his audition for that one.
Exactly. It's
hey,
a much better
that
movie.
one.
My favorite bit of trivia about this is that it was originally an R-rated movie, but they didn't want to do that because it wouldn't make as much money, so they changed the character's name to Funktastic. And
I'm guessing the other name would not be Funktastic.
It was not Funktastic. That's why his chains don't move, because the tattoo applique they had said something else, and they had to glue the chain to his chest.
Really?
I think
to cover the tattoo.
I think that they probably would have made more money if they just kept it R.
Yeah, because it would have
it didn't make any money.
No.
Right.
It was fine. It was. I laughed quite a bit at just the awkness of it.
Yeah, it's very early 2000s.
And I loved it where they had all I guess they were other monks that they were sucking the life forces out of them, or they had all that. I looked around at the set. I'm like, wow, it's a lot of money. They spent a lot of money on this thing. Like when they had Chow Yun-Fat chained up in that thing and they slid him across the room.
Yeah.
That whole set was not cheap.
No,
and
it's watching money burn on screen. That's what we did.
Exactly. Wow.
Hey, a lot of people worked on this one. People worked, and that's great.
Yeah,
and there was a script, and people acted.
There was a script, and there was people acted, and
And I will say
I liked the prophecy twist kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. That was cool. I liked that. And there's bits about it I do enjoy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's very very early 2000s. This is I kind of miss movies like this in the sense that someone paid to have this made and paid to put it on a screen, and it's not a sequel. It's not an existing property. It is
this is a unique thing. This is its own story. Yeah. I agree with you. I agree there. And see, unfortunately, what's happened is that they don't make a lot of these movies anymore. Now they make one in game. Mm-hmm. or one like big tentpole thing, as opposed to kind of spreading. Like, let's make a bunch of these little movies. Everything has to make $1 billion, and
who knows now that since theaters are going to be closed forever and the world's dying, so I just want I would really like to know that
I'm reading horrible things about AMC. It's the world's largest movie chain or theater chain. I mean, and they're not sure they're going to make it.
Yep.
Yeah. And all I can think is, if this is the case, the last movie I saw in theaters was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in a theater.
Which is?
Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
well, don't worry. It won't be the last one.
Knives Out. Knives Out was the last one we saw in the theater.
And Knives Out was incredible.
Which?
Oh, my God.
Who was that?
Knives Out. It's a murder mystery with Chris Evans and Daniel Craig. It's fantastic.
Okay.
It was fine. I liked Hide and Seek or Ready. I think it was Ready or Not.
I wanted to see that. I heard that was good.
That's better. In my humble opinion, that was better.
But do you know what's better than those?
The movie that we ended with. You are correct.
Wow. You guys are just the segue kings.
We've done this.
We've done a few segues.
We've done this. Lucas, what movie did?
So, Highlander. Highlander.
not the TV show.
Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the
if you took the music out of this movie,
it'd be awful.
The music didn't make the movie, but it was amazing. It does. It
takes
just
it that much more.
Absolutely.
That's something we have been reoccurring, or we've been talking about fairly regularly,
particularly in fantasy movies, Dad. That fantasy movie music, there's you can't listen, you can't watch a Hitchcock movie and not hear Elmer Bird's or Bernard Herrmann's music, and obviously that it ties into it. So music's always something that it elevates movies, but in the fantasy genres particularly, Krull is elevated by its score. Willow is elevated by its score,
and due to the fact that fantasy is the most earnest and the most explicitly fictional. It's the one thing that occasionally needs that additional kick to hit you emotionally.
And a perfect example of it not working is there were some made-for-TV movies that I actually enjoyed watching the first one and the second one, except for the music, and it's The Librarian.
We literally just watched all three last week.
Really? Because I watched The Librarian.
They're fun.
And they're really fun movies. And then you have to listen to this somebody on a little keyboard about that big made the music.
It would be better if they played the demo from the Casio keyboard that we had growing. Dun 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 dun.
Exactly.
Dun 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 dun.
Okay, so I won't belabor this, but that's just one thing that always killed me about those movies is, wow, this would have been good if they had actually paid some money for a score.
And they use the theme song in the television show, and the television show's fun, but it's the same kind of wow, this is a zither.
But anyway,
to your point, Ted, this movie would be great. The music
just threw it over the top,
blows out of the water,
threw it over the top.
Yep. So
let me ask a question? Did they? I don't know this. Did they take the music that was already written and incorporate it into the movie, or did Queen work with them to come up with this music?
I think they came up. I think they wrote Princes of the Universe for the show, for the movie, but It's a Kind of Magic and I think It's a Kind of Magic also.
What about Who Wants to Live Forever?
I don't
know.
Because that
it was perfect.
That montage when she's growing old and that song's playing over it, you couldn't have a better piece of music for that montage.
It was perfect.
Yeah. Lucas, for those morons that haven't watched this movie, that have been, instead of watching Highlander during their quarantine, have been watching Love is Blind.
After Dark.
Which I watched. I watched all the episodes of Love is Blind.
I haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix. It's a blind date marriage show where they ask people to marry them before they see each other.
Ooh, that sounds really bad.
It's great. That's actually why I have. It's great.
Apparently,
it's not as good as Highlander, but it's great.
Apparently, what's it called? Who Wants to Live Forever? They wrote after seeing the sequence of that in the movie.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah,
because they captured the perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's fucking perfect. So since the beginning of time, there are people who are immortal. They can sort of sense each other. They have to kill each other by cutting off their heads. Eventually, there can be only one.
There can be only one.
Yes. Christopher Lambert plays Connor MacLeod. He's a Scottish Highlander who's been alive since 1475, I think, somewhere around there, and he's been fighting his way throughout history.
He's old.
Yeah. Yep. He is opposed by the Kurgan, played by Clancy Brown in one of his first movie roles in one of the best villains in a film ever, who's so menacing and terrifying, which is really funny because apparently Clancy Brown is the nicest guy on the planet, to the point where that horrifying scene in the church where he's terrifying, after the camera stopped. Yeah, after the camera stopped, he wouldn't apologize to everyone because those were actual. Apparently, those are actual nuns that he apologized to, which is great. But it's so good because we watched. We talked about Last Witch Hunter last week, and that has a very similar vibe to this, but this did it better.
Oh yeah.
Well, listen to what you just said, Lucas. You synopsized this in just a couple 3 sentences. You know, there's a group of immortals. They live forever. They have to fight each other. They can sense each other. They kill each other by cutting off their head. They absorb the energy. And at
they're going to be only one.
They're going to be only one. Okay. If somebody told me that, I'm like, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I'm not going to watch that. This went so far beyond that. It was crazy. I mean, how, you know, the song you just described, Lars, about it really got to me how lonely these people were.
Yeah. Yep.
They nailed it about, you know, everybody thinks, oh, I'd love to live forever. I don't know. Watching this.
Because this montage that Dad's talking about, his wife's growing older before his eyes. And she's like his love of his life, and she's dying, and he stays the same.
Yeah.
And you watch it as she's not dying, she's just getting older, and he still worships her. And you see that. And then you go to Sean Connery, who's been around since Egyptian times.
Yep.
He said he'd been married 3 times.
3 times.
3 times only, and he's been alive for 3,000 years. And it's just, you can tell these people are lonely.
Yeah.
Like, and the only he meets another immortal, Castigir, on a bridge, and they meet and they have this like moment of, well, okay, so obviously they had to have had some kind of friendships throughout history, and all Castigir wants to do is have a party. And he says it, and it's funny, and it's meant to be comical, but at the same time, what he wants to do is
be close to
connect with people,
party,
be close to
see
somebody.
People.
Yeah,
and that's what kind of gives the idea some weight, right? Like it's not I'm gonna go cut a bunch of people's heads off. It's these people have been wandering the world for millennia, and basically, it's almost like, well, if I get my head cut off, well, finally.
I know.
I can take a nap.
Or like the whole,
I'm done.
Like the whole sequence where it's I think it's in France in 17 whatever, where he's dueling the guy.
Oh, on Boston Green.
It's
in Boston.
And he keeps getting stabbed and getting up and stabbing and getting up because he's drunk. But I'm like, it's like, I'm so bored. I'm just going to drink and let this guy stab me, and it doesn't matter.
And then he says that, he's like, I'm sorry. I'm done.
I know.
Let me go. And he just walks off drunk, covered in bleeding.
Right. Right. It's great. Great sword fighting. And I also like it dumps you into it. Like it starts at a wrestling match.
Yeah.
And then he goes down into a parking garage, and then just starts sword fighting. It's like, what the hell is this?
And that guy starts doing fucking cartwheels.
What is going on? What's going on? And I like how it just kind of unfolds gradually.
Because you really don't know what's going on.
Nope.
I mean, there's a giant, there's this carnage at a wrestling match, and then what I loved about it, the sound of the swords in all the sword fight. It was amazing. They nailed it. I don't even know if it sounds that way, but it ought to sound that way.
It should.
Yes.
It should sound that way.
And there's and every time they do a cool thing where they mention whenever they mention like a memory for him, it does a quick flashback to an earlier memory, and it's a really cool device. Like, you were banished from your village, and it shows the banishment, but only for half a second. Something that has stuck with me. I've watched this movie I don't know how many times. Something that has always stuck with me. It's in the wrestling match, and he's sitting there watching the wrestling match, and there is this guy over his right shoulder who is screaming at him the entire time, trying to have a conversation with him about the wrestling match, and I don't understand why. Why is he chosen to focus on this one guy to scream at him about it? And it's one of those things that doesn't make sense to me, and it's just one of those weird little things that he's so alone that there's a guy there's a guy trying to talk to him. I can't ever like look away from him because he's just standing there watching the thing, and there's a guy like talking about the violence of the wrestling, and he can't associate with that guy because he doesn't get it somehow. But it's just this weird moment of this guy trying to talk to him and him not.
Well, because he's hunting at that point. Like, he knows that there's somebody that he's going to go fight.
Yeah,
I'm done. Like everything else is.
I love that shot where you can see the arena,
giant arena,
and it goes down right to his eyes, and his eyes are lit up.
Yeah.
There's another scene that has always stuck with me where he's fighting. They're fighting in the warehouse, and it's dark, and the camera is a long ways away, it doesn't. It looks like the camera is on a pendulum, and it swings back and forth, and it stops, and then it comes back, and it's just it's just an amazing shot.
The camera work is incredible. The camera work in the last fight, it again, like the music elevates the movie. The camera work elevates two guys hitting each other with a sword, which is exciting. So, it makes it that much more interesting.
So I love love that final battle for a couple of different reasons. One, Christopher Lambert is more or less blind. Like, legitimately, he's incredibly myopic, so he can't like sword fight well. So that it's heavily choreographed. It's also, if you watch it, it's not a technically impressive sword fight. But the camera is incredible. Absolutely. The music is incredible. The build up to this one battle is perfect, and it completely jumps it back. Yes. And the sound oh my God.
of the swords was plus, and the lighting in there, where everything was like it had rained. Everything was slick wet, and it just
because that's
really
like they knocked the
this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's oh my God.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite movies. It's way up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was it's got it take like after the initial hit of there's some people sword fighting. What this does
in a
really
parking lot.
In a parking lot. What all fantastical movies do well, if they're going to do it well, they make you care about the characters.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's stakes. So if you care about the characters and you care about what happens to them when their love interest gets kidnapped, you care about that and you want them to win. If it's just nameless person hitting each other with a sword, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have any weight to it.
Right.
But if I want Connor McLeod to knock the effing Kurgan's head off because that guy sucks and Connor's awesome, then that's going to make that last fight that much more impactful.
And even more impressive, we haven't mentioned Sean Connery.
No, right?
No.
To me, I'm like,
and by the way, Sean Connery's in this.
My all-time hero. He was amazing in this movie. He was perfect. Number one, I mean, it looked like he was maybe in the prime of his life. He looked great. He played it straight. He was what, Ramirez.
Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez.
And
Chief Metallurgist.
Basically, he had a great earring.
And he's the one that kind of like brings Connor up and like
tells him the story.
Gives him the
he's
rules.
Obi-Wan.
He tells him, he's Obi-Wan. Exactly, he's Obi-Wan. Yep. But he was so good, and then I think that was something that really drove McLeod to really want to kill the Kurgan, was that he killed Sean Connery. He killed Ramirez.
Yeah.
And Ramirez, taught him everything. And there were points in the training, if you will, where McLeod could have killed him, but you could tell he cared. He cared about it.
Mm-hmm. And that for the first time, he actually was able to have a connection and be with, and someone gets it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole thing where they're running on the beach with a deer, that was just so cool. I mean, it just kind of, they're running and you could get into it. Like, these people are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised we forgot. Oh, and by the way, Sean Connery was
Sean Connery's in it, and it's really great. No, this was. I'm sure people have seen this if they're listening to our podcast, but if you haven't, man, this is one to watch.
How have you? Yeah.
Have you gone? We'll get to the sequels,
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
We won't invite you back for those, Dad.
No. I've actually watched them all. I've seen the sequels. And
oh, yes.
The one where they go to another planet, I'm whoa, this is wow.
Yeah.
You guys are smoking crack.
Right. Yeah. Let's do Highlander first. Lucas, where does Highlander sit with all this? And Dad,
honestly,
yeah.
So Highlander is obviously the best of the three of these movies.
By a country mile. It's better than most of the movies that we've watched.
Yep.
It's better than most movies I've watched. It is way up there for me. Just in terms of music, of cinematography, of acting, of everything. It's just a really well thought out, put together movie, and it's utter fantasy.
And it has lots of setups and payoffs. It has lots of just great. All right, what's your floor, Lucas? What's the one? What's your ceiling? What's it not better than? And good luck, because I'm okay with putting this at the top.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, I'd definitely rather watch this than Excalibur, and it's better than Stardust.
It is.
And I'm looking at Return of the King right there, and I'm like, I don't know if we would have gotten Return of the King without this either.
I am fine if we've supplanted our.
I think we have.
Our stop. Okay, fantastic. Highlander is absolutely. Yep.
Yes.
Because
I could put this at number one.
I can't rate them because I haven't watched all the dribble that you guys have watched. but based on, I love Stardust.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a really good movie for many reasons. But I could actually hang up right now and go watch Highlander again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it would be, I would sit there and watch the whole thing and it'd be great. It's a really good movie.
All right. We got a new number one.
I know.
Holy cow. All right. And then let's just go down in order.
Yeah.
Bulletproof
Monk. It's a middling thing.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Twilight.
Than Twilight.
The vampire movie.
I know what you. Yeah. It's the same. It's mindless.
It's adjacent.
It's mindless dribble.
Yeah.
What's above Twilight?
I will say I like Chow Yun-Fat. So he's good. He's a good actor.
Yep.
The production values are really great. The whole Twilight thing was idiotic.
Yeah. So what's above Twilight, Lucas?
Inkheart.
I like Inkheart better.
Did I get dropped?
Yeah, I like Inkheart better.
I'm fine with that too.
What was it?
I think Inkheart had a Inkheart.
With Brendan
Fraser. He can read books into existence. It's fun. It's fine.
Wow,
if he reads Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf comes out.
Oh.
If he reads The Wizard of Oz, the tornado comes.
Reads it out loud or just reads it?
Yeah, reads out loud. Like he's a silver tongue. So his magical power is that he can read books.
Whatever happened to him?
He's on Doom Patrol,
it's
a sad story. We've discussed it. It's sad. He's on Doom Patrol now, and Doom Patrol is awesome.
What's that on?
It's on HBO. Well, it's on DC.
Yeah.
DC Universe or whatever, but it's also on HBO Max. And Doom Patrol is hilarious.
Oh, wow.
I'm really digging that show
because he was like number one. Then all of a sudden,
it's sad.
Yep.
We'll send it to you.
Okay.
It's sad. Right. we went into it when we got into Inkheart and it was like, oh man, that sucks.
I should have listened in on these.
We don't. Wait, so Mom's the only one that listens to us. Great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Mom's
okay, so
I'd
say it's in between Inkheart and
Twilight.
And Inkheart and Twilight.
Yep.
Against the Dark.
And okay. Rather watch Hobbit: Battle of Five Armies.
In this episode, did we find
Dwarves of Dragon Mountain?
Okay, so right now, what's the worst one you've ever seen? Is it the one you talked about?
So it's the one on the list right now is one called Lord of the Elves, and it was viscerally uncomfortable.
It's an Indonesian Hobbit movie, and it was just really it's just really bad. Just really uncomfortable to watch.
So what was
we didn't like it.
What was the movie? What was the movie that you told me? Please don't watch this, Dad.
Deathstalker, probably.
Yes, Deathstalker. That's what it was. Deathstalker.
Watch Deathstalker 2. Don't watch Deathstalker 1.
Okay.
Deathstalker 2 is actually fun.
Deathstalker 2 is pretty fun. This is not at the level of the Lord of the Elves. I wasn't uncomfortable watching this.
Yeah, I was just bored out of my mind.
I was bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
So so it's the Dwarves of Elf Mountain. What was it?
Dwarves of Dragon Mountain. That one that was shot entirely in a closet.
The cave-in movie. The cave-in movie.
It was shot in the closet.
Yeah.
It's like pitch black the entire time, and so you can't see anything. It's
so bad.
It was another one of those movies where I spent the whole time like, what the hell is going on? I'm falling asleep.
I would probably watch. I'd say this is better than the Dwarves of Dragon Mountain.
Yeah, because at least
you can see what's happening.
which was nothing, but you could see it.
But
you could see it.
But you could
so by the virtue of being able to actualize one of the other senses, that this is better.
And you got to see the nice leather duster that he wore.
Duster. I think the duster alone brings it.
Plus, I like the way he's doing the spray painted hair. Seagal, that's there's a video of him. So he has dual citizenship in American and Russia because he's great. Oh, that's right.
And he did a karate demonstration or a hapkido or whatever discipline
Aikido does, right?
In Russia, and it's the most lackadaisical, come at me.
He's so bored looking.
This is what I do. I'm gonna go fight somebody, and that's what this movie is.
And we'll see he's a jerk, but I remember a friend of mine saying that's the kind of energy I want to cultivate. Is just the idea of I am so bored with these people, and yet I'm still taking them down.
But he is
right.
He's more than a jerk. I mean, from what I understand, he's a bad person. I mean, in some of these people that have been in movies with him, he'll just take them out for no reason. He'll throw them on the ground, whatever. And I'm like,
there's a lot more than that. I'll send you a link. Anyways, Lars, where are these good people find us?
Hopefully still at home, and if not at home, wearing a goddamn mask.
And not a bad mask.
If you go outside, put a mask on. It is not
pretend
that
to be
hard.
a ninja. Pretend to be a ninja.
Pretend to be a ninja.
There you go.
Pretend to be Val Kilmer in Heat. Like you're robbing a bank.
Wow.
Just do whatever you need to do. Just do it. Wear a mask.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing that, you can also find us on Twitter at Sword and Boardcast. You can also find us on Instagram at
same thing.
At Sword and Boardcast. I'm going to do that again. You can find us on Twitter at Sword and Boardcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Sword and Boardcast. We're also on a variety of different podcasting sites: Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Skywriting. There's a little elf that goes and transcribes this on little tablets and then buries it in my backyard each week. So come by the house, stay 6 feet away, and maybe you could read them.
Dad, thanks for showing up again.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. This was a blast. Any invitation, I'll do it anytime.
Okay.
This was
good.
You don't get to pick the movies next time though.
No, I'm gonna pick a good one.
Please do.
I've heard Highlander 2. Highlander 2 is great.
Hey, wait a minute. What is this? After the Dark 2.
Oh,
Electric
right.
Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. Oh, man. Well, hey, everybody have a great night.
Hey, I love you guys.
Love you too.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
All right.